What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane, and don't you know it, St. John's played, so St. John's lost again. And because we lost, I found it fitting to bring my good friend Cole Latshaw back on. He only hangs around on losses, so made sure to put the call in at halftime, thinking maybe we'd sneak out a win and we'd see Cole after a win, but looks like I put the hex on us, Cole. I'm sorry.
Yep. Back by popular demand. Pat, I only work when we do losses, so keep that in mind. If we're going to win a
So
game,
you're a busy man. You're a busy man there, Cole, because that's all we have as St. John's fans is losses.
That's right.
I was just saying to you before we started, Cole, like this was a game where we could talk for hours about the miscues and the disaster that just ensued, and it's pathetic that St. John's lost that game. I don't know how it was this, but I never felt like we were going to lose that game. As unconfident as I am in St. John's this year, as little hope as they've given us that they would finish off a game, I just felt like tonight they were going to get the job done. And what do you know it? I spoke too soon, and it was mishap after mishap. And even then, Butler was doing everything they could to let us win that game, missing free throws, turning it over themselves, and we still couldn't get out of our own way. And, maybe a little bad break on that last play. It was a nicely executed play, but the ball did get tipped. He didn't have enough time. Maybe if it would have fouled. I'm rambling now, Cole. You go ahead. Your thoughts?
Silly you. I don't know why you would think that St. John's would end a game in any other fashion. It's just typical Groundhog Day with St. John's. Don't score a field goal in the final 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Butler ends the game on a 10-2 run. I know we had the same exact conversation before, but I just think any coach worth his salt when the bleeding is happening like that, you can draw something up, pull the team together, run a play, and get a basket. And Mike Anderson is just absolutely incapable of doing that. It seems every time we get down to nut cutting time, to winning time, and this team just can't seem to put the ball in basket, and it's insanely frustrating.
Nut cutting time. I like that one. I'm going to put that in my pocket for later, Cole.
Coleism.
Before I, go at Coach Anderson for the things he did wrong, let's just say that play to potentially tie it there, give him credit, or whoever drew it up in the huddle. We would have to eat crow if we were in the middle of saying he can't draw plays, then before we know it, he drew one up for a tie game. Of course, the ball got tipped and didn't count, but a little bit of credit has to go there. Now, we twice tonight out of timeouts, twice, the same exact shot on opposite ends of the court, out of timeouts. The play from the baseline out of bounds was a Curbelo fadeaway corner jumper, mid-range shot. Not a three-point shot where you get the added 50% bonus, not a layup in the paint, a fadeaway jumper. That's the play out of a timeout twice.
I'm sure that's exactly what the coaches wanted, right?
The scary thing is who knows if it is or it isn't. I mean, if it happens the second time, a part of me believes that they didn't have a problem with the first time. And, he did make one of those shots. It's just the fact that if you're going to be living off things like that, the sustainability is non-existent. It's mind-boggling. And it sucks because tonight was a fantastic game from Posh, such an overdue performance from him. And this reminded me of the Providence game last year at home where he had a phenomenal game, close to 38 points. I think he had 28, 11 assists, and we just couldn't get over the hump and lost to Providence at home when we were in the middle of a rut. This kind of felt like that. And again, Posh was doing everything he could, and we just couldn't get out of that rut.
And I think, especially in the first half, I think that's the best half of basketball we've seen him play all year. This is the Posh that we hoped we were going to get in his junior year, that we thought he would take the next step. Tonight, he had that, which he hasn't really shown all year. I think in the first half, he had 10 points on 5 of 6 shooting, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, most importantly, no turnovers. Still had a really good second half, too. 17 points, 8 of 11 shooting, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, but 3 turnovers, and you hate to.
And I'm pretty sure I can't do that, son. That's what all I know was number 3.
You hate to kill a kid when he had such a great night and really carried us. But how backbreaking was that turnover with 20 seconds left, throwing the ball behind his back to Soriano? No need to get pretty. We're down by 2, and my dad, as a high school coach, would have made me walk home for doing something like that. So,
there's going to be a lot of folks that are saying it hit him in the chest. It hit him in the chest. I don't know. I feel for Posh there because, it did get to the intended place. But like you said, it's behind the back at the wrong time. Fancy doesn't get the job done. And he compounded it in my mind. This might be a bad take. I hate when kids show up the other teammate. You know, Soriano dropped the ball and Posh is there standing with his hands up like this for a legitimate 3 or 4 seconds before he gets back into play. And Posh is like, you know, the one guy you would never have to question his effort, his work ethic, all that stuff that leads to being like more than just a basketball player. But in that moment, I really hated to see it. So I'm going to cut him some slack because it's not his vibe usually. But right then, it just kind of summed up the feeling of the whole team. I thought they just are, you know, lost for words, or, you know, their emotions are bubbling up. They're really frustrated. And tonight, you know, you could see it in Soriano's eyes before he got the opportunity to tie that game. And I can only imagine what he's feeling now. But when he's sitting on the bench after that really rough stretch, the last 3 or 4 minutes, and I got the notes written down, we'll get into the details. It was you could see like some bad spots in those kids' faces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know you love to always talk about timeouts and coach not taking the timeouts when he had them. What did you think about him calling that timeout then when we immediately got the turnover? The ball ends up in Soriano's hands. Curbello's wide open along the baseline, screaming for the ball. He doesn't pass to him initially, eventually gets to him. It still looks like Curbello might have a good look at the rim, even when it gets to him. And the game just stops on a timeout that the announcers even had no idea what was going on. I was a little dumbfounded. I mean, obviously Soriano was a little hesitant. And I think like you sort of just laid out, he was sort of having moments with himself at the end of that game. But I still thought Curbello had a reasonable look to tie the game there. And all of a sudden,
if I'm right, if I'm remembering it correctly, that was the same possession where Curbello like drove from the opposite baseline, lost it, regained it, and missed the layup, and that was like ensuing Soriano got the rebound.
Got a steal, yeah.
So I'm gonna cut Soriano some slack because Curbello was open, but perhaps he was just thinking, "What is Curbello gonna do with it?" Maybe not confident. Maybe he's got a point. And once he didn't give it to him, once he didn't pass to him, you know, right away when he was open, and Curbello looked frustrated as hell too, kind of did the same thing Posh did. I thought the right call was to call a timeout. Not if they weren't going to pass to him right away. You know, if you're a good coach, call a timeout, get us set up, and maybe get us into something. But you know, that's not always the thing. I think what happened after that was that the Pinzone pass in the air, Soriano missed layup that followed that, or was that before? There was so many mishaps. It's all bundled together. All I know is we didn't score. That's all I do know.
That much I'm certain of. We didn't put the ball in the basket. I remember that correctly.
Yeah. And you mentioned 3 turnovers by Posh in the second. I know Wusu ended with 3 turnovers. I'm pretty sure he had none in the first half. So that's 6 turnovers. I had 2 of those guys in the second half. Wusu had a really rough second half. He had a nice defensive play late that kind of gave us a chance, but he was getting toasted in the first half, toasted in the beginning of the second half. The coach just got him on a couple threes, some backdoors, some you know, times guys drove right by him. That's not usually his weakness, but everyone's kind of regressing to the mean there on the defensive end, and that's not good.
I thought he had a few good offensive possessions in the first half. I think he hit at least 1 3, if I remember correctly. But it seemed like, especially in the second half, he gets by his man, he can get the ball to the rim, and then he was hesitant at the rim and kept getting trapped underneath the rim. At least the one he got called for the travel. He's always getting bumped, as you and I complain about every single game. So there's never a foul call. He's never going to get a foul ever.
Yeah,
so
he gets bottled up in there. Like he can't get up off his feet when he's like not at a full running sprint. He can he can jump off 1 foot, but like when he's down low, he can't get up off his feet. He gets gobbled up in the paint. And I think the guys just aren't playing off him like they used to. They know he doesn't want to drive to finish. He wants to drive to pass. So he's got no one left open, and the next thing you know, he's like nowhere to go but up, and he struggles with it. He had a decent stretch, I thought, in the middle of the part of the year where he was making his shots inside, and kind of reverted back to that lately. Stanley, you know, your boy, I figured I'd bring it back up. Got the courtesy start. Didn't remember seeing much of him in the second half. What I do remember in the second half, this is just a funny point I thought I mentioned, because we're going to go ahead and defend AJ Storr, who I wanted to see a lot more of tonight. I'm not going to point to his defensive deficiencies when the whole team was struggling there. I thought he got on the floor early. He made a couple plays defensively. But in the second half, Coach Anderson looked like he took him out when he dropped the pass. It happened immediately after he dropped the pass. And I couldn't help but think how ironic that was, considering AJ Storr on 2 previous plays in that same half made 2 really good passes, one time to Stanley, who dropped the pass, and another time to Soriano, who dropped the pass. There would have been 2 layup attempts. So like that's the type of stuff where you really got to question what a kid will be thinking when, you know, it's one thing if you're just getting beat blatantly on defense. It's another thing if the mistake you made is a physical error, you're dropping a pass, and you know previously it happened to 2 other guys, but you're getting yanked for that. You can't help but think, what is a kid thinking in that situation?
Yeah, it's funny you brought up Stanley. I absolutely wanted to say that. In the second half of, if I'm remembering correctly, I thought he actually had a really good couple of minute stretch there right at the beginning of the second half. I think he had at least 2 baskets, had a block, a really nice rebound in traffic. And I immediately thought like, wow, you know, sort of you had mentioned before, the Energizer Bunny, like kind of giving us good solid minutes. And then shortly thereafter, I don't remember if there was a mistake that happened or something, but his butt was glued to the bench for, I think, for the remainder of the game. So he got that, you know, obligatory start to come in there in the second half, and then promptly, you know, gave us some solid energy minutes and then got his butt glued to the bench. But I thought Storr struggled a little bit offensively. I don't know what he ended with, maybe like 4 or so points.
I think he had 4 points. Well, yeah, we can pull the box score in a second.
I know he missed at least 1 wide open corner 3, which anytime you see him in the corner, I immediately think that's going in, especially when he's open. I remember he missed that. Which, I mean, he's a young player. Of course, he's going to have his struggles. He's going to have his ups and downs. And I think, to your point, he's shown us what he can do offensively. I'd love to just ride out his struggles at times and give him the minutes that we need to let him have to develop his game. One thing I wanted to ask you what you think, because I know, you know, you've got a little bit of coaching background in you. Like, do you ever watching Storr, do you ever think he kind of falls in love too much with the 3, and specifically watching him like off ball? I sometimes don't see a lot of movement. He's kind of just, which not even, maybe that's obviously not even his fault. That's might be just what he's growing up. But it seems like he just camps out in that corner, and sometimes there'll be full possession. He doesn't even move from there.
The system doesn't help him at all. But it's funny you brought that up. There was one thing I wanted to point out in the second half. Posh made a layup, and then we got a steal, and then we pushed the ball up the court. And instead of Storr like forcing a 2-on-2 fast break, he kicked it to Posh in the corner. And then the ball got packed to Storr, and he ended up having a nice drive to get the mid-range jumper. That was the one shot he made tonight, besides the layup drive he had in the first half. But that was kind of, you know, in line with him not forcing, just looking for threes or fast break layups. He made the right decision, didn't force it, and the ball came back to him, and he made a nice play. I agree 100% that off the ball, I think it's more just our system. We don't use him enough, and then he gets caught just standing around waiting, and it's just a bad case, all things considered. One, obviously, we don't have the guys that will be in the paint making plays to get that guy open if you're just going to stand around. And 2, we hold on to the ball very long on the perimeter. So there'll be times where you standing in the corner, you could get forgotten about, and it's not even like there's action going on. It's just aimless passes or aimless holding the ball. So I've screamed from the mountaintops. I mean, make the kid a screener. You know, if that's all you want to do, make him a screener. Force his defender to have to be in a bunch of different situations where they got to read and react. And he's a big physical kid. And usually, you know, you set good screens, you get yourself open, and that's an easy way just to utilize him. If you're not going to run sets for him, let him be active as a screener. You know, we could talk for hours, Cole. I mean, about this guy and his utilization of his players, and it's not good. It's not good. I don't even know where you go with Storr, because like if you're not going to play him 35 minutes tonight in a game, I get Pinzon was hot, and maybe he'd probably say, if he were to talk to us, that you don't want to have those 2 guys out on the court too much together. But you know, you scored 66 points on the road against Butler, and you know, they're not a team that's going to outscore you. And I know like our MO is to push the pace, and sometimes I'll be like, well, I think we could be better if we slowed it down. Now I'm sitting out the other side of my mouth, saying Butler's a team that's not going to keep up with you if you look to score. And you know, if you don't score 70 points against Butler, I think you leave yourself open to lose. And Storr is one of those guys. He didn't have Storr in the court on that 2 inbounds plays either. Just another note. You know, he had Wusu in on both those plays and not Storr. I would have liked to have Storr on that court to get a bucket.
Sure.
And why did he play tonight?
He had a few minutes. Yeah, I think in the
first half. Let's take a look at the box score.
I don't think he did anything. He might have 1 basket.
Yeah, there it is. 68-66. We scored 25 points in the second half. The only thing that's good about tonight in green is those 2 guys, Posh and Pinzon, scoring the ball. Everything else is rough. I mean, we only went to the line 6 times. that's not good enough for how many few easy baskets we get. 4 threes. I'm pretty sure we had 4 threes going into the half. If I'm right about that. Maybe I'm mistaken there.
I'm sure.
But not many from deep. And the 50% should be good enough, but I'm pretty sure that was much higher going into half, or over 50%. So second half, obviously the shooting wasn't there. Soriano gets his, cursory double-double for the stats' sake, but he got outplayed tonight by Bates, I thought.
Especially in the first half. Yeah, Bates was crushing him. I think Bates at halftime had like 12 points, 5 rebounds. Butler had 7 offensive rebounds in the first half, 9 on the game. We were really getting killed there, especially in the first half down low.
Yeah, I think I had that. I was looking at there's the first half, right? Up 7 points. You could see 55 points in the first half. They had 7 offensive rebounds in the first half. They only shot 40% in the first half. But if you look overall, 41% for the game. So they shot a little better in the second half. It's us who shot 49%. So a much worse shooting second half for us.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that's brutal. Wait, what did it say? We were 4 for 8 from 3 in the first half. So, yeah, we didn't hit any threes in the second half. 10-point lead squandered. I think we had a 6-point lead with 5 minutes left. We pushed it up to, and then, they stay within striking distance, but just over and over again. And Soriano, it sucks. We're kind of spoiled with how well he played in the beginning of the year. Now that a 12-11 game doesn't look great, and, the missed layups are one thing, but still think there's been years where, we'd be dying for this performance from our center, as sad as that is. But what we saw for 17 games is really, spoiled us to what to expect. And tonight, if he would have just been a little bit better, if he would have been 10% better, or a second quicker as a team, then we would have got that win tonight. While I mentioned that second again, how about, speaking of lack of coaching, and this is, unbelievable malpractice, or, maybe the players just didn't follow his orders, but from like 25 seconds to 12 seconds was just aimless dribbling by Butler. We didn't look to foul. I mean, that's 12 seconds. We're down 2. The only move there is to foul. Like, they're going to run up the shot clock. It wasn't like, we were down 8 and the game was over. You're down 2 points. You're going to foul and you're going to extend the game, and you let 12 valuable seconds. Does it look like those seconds mattered, Cole?
And you can tell, obviously, part of that is coaching, because he's telling them to try to trap, telling them to go for a steal, which is something, me personally, like, I always hate that. I feel like if you don't get that steal immediately, then foul and extend the game. Like, I hate that, where you're trying to force them to make another pass and see if you can steal that. I just think if you don't have that immediate steal in the inbounds, then you should be fouling. But yeah, I absolutely to just piss away that many seconds of game time. And then that Butler guy probably misses 2 free throws. It's like, that was exactly what you wanted, but unfortunately you let all those seconds tick away.
And he's an 80% free throw shooter, so that was a gift. And and then the pass from Wasu up the sideline to Pinzone before he got fouled took like another 3 seconds. It felt. Credit to our coaching staff for being on that right there to get the ball on the baseline. They were about to have us inbound the ball on the sideline. Yep. And we were going to let them get away with that. So, obviously it's your job to understand that shit. So you shouldn't be getting pat in the back. But, we made a point, and we ended up getting a much better look because of it.
I don't know much about Thad Matta as a coach, but I was thinking on that long pass by Wazoo where they fouled Pinzone, like, how heady of a play is that by the kid who made the foul? Is that Thad Matta coaching them, telling them they had a foul to give? I didn't recognize it in real time that they had a foul to give, but you could tell the guy purposely fouled them on purpose.
Oh, it was a very smart play. He puts you in a tough spot. You'd have to ask Thad Matta if he knew that we'd get the ball underneath the basket to inbound. Would he rather us just play it out or not? If you're inbounded on the sideline in the backcourt, it's definitely the smart play.
Mm-hmm.
Pinzone made the shot too, didn't? I mean, obviously didn't count. After the shot, of course.
After the whistle.
Yeah. Wow. So I think we've only got 3 home games left now. Connecticut, who looked fucking phenomenal again tonight, they're going to have revenge. They can't get swept by St. John's, right? They'll look terrible on your tournament resume. Providence coming up. I think we played Providence tough on the road. That was, that was the inaugural live game for me. So I'll always remember that one. But
special place.
Cooley's tough, and Cooley loves the Garden, and they need a win too to tack onto their resume. And St. John just doesn't have as much to play for anymore, except this pride thing, and who knows how much that's worth. And the other home game, why am I drawing a blank on it? Creighton. So 3 grueling home games against teams that are, top of the conference, and then the other road games, who knows? Can you beat Georgetown and DePaul on the road? I don't know. Could you beat Butler? No.
Well, you said one of the things that I wanted to bring up is I was looking at the standings and wondering to myself, is what do we even have to play for at this point for the rest of the season? I mean, obviously you want to be playing well going into the Big East tournament. But really, I think right now, the only room we have to move is with Nova being above us. I think Nova's in the 7th seed right now. So we're kind of locked in, especially after losing today. I think we're now down 2 losses to them. With the schedule we have, I think we're pretty much locked into that 8-9 game, which would, again, if it ended today, would be against Butler. Best case scenario, again, you move up to 7. You're still playing on that first night. Then you'd be playing DePaul. Obviously, you'd prefer to play DePaul on that first night. But I can't tell you the last time in my memory when St. John's has not played on that first night of the Big East tournament. And that's insanely frustrating.
Well, even 2 years ago when we got the 4 or 5 seed.
That would be it, yeah.
Right, but we were the only team out of like the 5 teams that get a bye that had to play. There was something with it. I forget what the. Oh no, the 4 and 5 don't play the Wednesday night, but the 1, 2, and 3 get a bye. They play the winners of the other 3 games. So we essentially had a bye, but we knew who our opponent was. Some deal. Seton Hall beat us. That's all I remember from it. But yeah, it's nothing to play for standings wise or moving up like seeding wise. I think it's just, you gotta hope they don't want to, they're gonna go on the court and want to beat the team in front of them, and that'll be enough. But it's not looking pretty, is it, Cole?
No, it is not, my friend.
Well, I promise, dude, I'm gonna get you on here after a win sometime. Well, I mean, I'll promise if we do win, I'll have you on. I don't know if I can promise a win, which is
that's a big if. Yeah, I'm
sad to say.
You promised a St. John's win before the end of the season.
You listeners out there, put your bets in on when will a win happen so we can get Cole on. I keep getting all these messages. We want that more of that Cole guy, more of that Cole guy. I'm like,
gotta give people what they want, Pat.
Yeah, okay. Well, the people want to win too, and I'm not giving them that. But thanks as always, Cole. Did you think of a player you want to shout out tonight? I promised you I'd give you the runway for that.
Oh, let's shout out. How about my favorite St. John's basketball player of all time, D'Angelo Harrison?
Wow. One of my favorites, too. Maybe my favorite as well. Okay, folks. Well, for Pat Kane and Cole Latshaw, we're D'Angelo Harrison. This is the Red Sword Rapid Reaction Podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Peace.
Thanks, brother.